Last year, publisher Dotemu and developers Lizard Cube and Guard Crush Games released one of the best beat-em-ups I've experienced in years with Streets of Rage 4. Now the team is releasing Streets of Rage 4 Mr. X Nightmare DLC, containing 3 new playable characters, additional wacky weapons, and a survival game mode. The result is a surprisingly addicting experience that rivaled my original playtime with the base game. Mr. X Nightmare's new playable characters are bosses previously encountered in Streets of Rage 4's story mode. Shiva the martial artist originally from Streets of Rage 2 is incredibly fast, but lacks the power and the ability to hold onto weapons. Max Thunder the pro wrestler from the same game is slower but more powerful, and Estelle is the no-nonsense cop who makes up the most well-rounded of the 3. Each is incredibly fun to play as, but because they are so diverse, it quickly becomes indicative of your playstyle depending on which character you excel with. For example, as speedy as Shiva is, I immediately realize how much I rely on weapons during battle, making him a considerably challenging character. This may require you to vastly alter your approach, but that's to the DLC's benefit and adds a bit of depth to the gameplay. Hands down, the shining moment of Mr. X Nightmare is the new survival mode. While the base game did have boss rush, it was nowhere near as complex as survival. Instead, players must make their way through a gauntlet of increasing difficulty with a single life bar. Fortunately, as you progress, you are given the option of an upgrade to your character. These upgrades range from stat boosts, elemental effects on your weapons, super damaging golden items, to some high-risk, high-rewards. Upgrades like dealing and receiving 100% more damage definitely give survival mode equal elements of gambling and strategy. Thankfully, all these upgrades stack on top of each other with each level, meaning you can get specific about your upgrades and how you want to use them in combination. Each run of survival mode is randomly generated, giving it a heavy roguelike feel. While you may see some similar levels and backgrounds in a run, you unlock additional villains the more you play. These villains are a mixture of color-swapped versions of Streets of Rage 4 enemies to 16-bit fighters found throughout the previous 3 games. When you earn enough experience with the character, you can also unlock alternate dash and special moves. These special moves can even be carried over into story and battle mode. In addition, each character has their own special set of moves to unlock, giving players a ton of reasons to keep playing. Besides the randomly generated survival mode, there is also a weekly trial that maintains consistent levels and villains. For those players that wish to work with a more familiar setting, it's nice to have this option. Both versions of survival mode manage to make Streets of Rage 4 even more engaging, and the randomly generated levels really help make the game feel fresh in a genre that sometimes is infamous for being repetitive. So even though I couldn't tell you if there was a definite end to these survival trials, I had no problem diving back in to see if I could get any further than I previously did. The new weapons and music added are great as well. Remixes of tracks even touch on altered versions of the Streets of Rage Game Gear songs. All tunes fit in perfectly and sound amazing. Zany weapons like the duck umbrella and the poisonous pufferfish are entertaining additions and add a bit of variation. Streets of Rage 4 Mr. X Nightmare DLC exceeded my expectations, adding to an already fantastic game. The new characters and weapons deliver a unique experience, and the survival mode can keep you playing for hours. On top of that, the price is exceptionally reasonable for what you get. If you're a fan of beat-em-ups, this is one DLC that shouldn't be passed up. Noisy Pixel gives Streets of Rage 4 Mr. X Nightmare DLC an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Noisy Pixel is brought to you by a group of gamers who work hard to bring you news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.